The friends of the Prince of Beijing's social circle always mocked me for being a country bumpkin, saying I was unworthy to be a stand-in for his white moonlight, a term used to describe an idealized former love. They even predicted that I wouldn't last a month before packing my bags and leaving. Panicked, I quickly called my 7 older sisters and began an emergency training program to groom them as stand-ins for the white moonlight. Even if I got fired, I couldn't let this lucrative opportunity slip into someone else's hands. It wasn't until a year later when the white moonlight returned to China, and the prince saw her face only to vomit. He trembled and said, "I'm sick of it. I never want to see that face again in my life." My parents didn't allow me to continue my education after junior high school. I worked at a factory for 3 years, earning 3,000 yuan per month. When the factory went bankrupt, I decided to change my environment and experience the prosperity of a big city. So, I took a job as a server at a 5-star hotel. Opportunities were abundant in the big city. A month after I started working, a handsome and wealthy man approached me and handed me a card. His eyes, filled with indifference, and his thin, beautiful lips parted as he said, "If you come with me, I'll give you 100,000 yuan as pocket money every month." The man's name was Fu Zhen, known as the Prince of Beijing's social circle. He was extremely powerful, influential, and wealthy, the richest person I had ever met. He offered me more money in a month than I had saved in 2 or 3 years. After much thought, I realized that what he was doing was exactly what the male protagonist did in a novel I had recently read. Titled, "After the White Moonlight Returns, the Stand-in Stuns the World." Fu Zhen was looking for a stand-in for his white moonlight, Lin Chuchu, and I bore an 80% resemblance to Lin Chuchu. However, he found me a bit too rustic. So, the first step was to have his secretary take me for a major transformation. No one had ever been so kind to me before. He gave me a lot of money, bought me clothes, shoes, bags, and jewelry. I was moved to tears, but on the first day he took me out, he was still unsatisfied. He frowned and said, "Stop acting so timid and naive." I felt uneasy and replied, "I'm sorry, boss. I really am naive, but I'll try to change." He was displeased and said, "Don't speak when we're out." I quickly nodded. A group of people were having a party. It was Lin Chuchu's farewell party before she went abroad to study design. Fu Zhen didn't agree with her going abroad, so he brought me along to upset her. When Lin Chuchu saw me, she was taken aback and then said with a hint of resignation, "Zhen, is this necessary? I know you love me. Just wait for me to come back after a year, okay?" Fu Zhen was clearly angry and restrained his fury. "Lin Chuchu, tell me how many years I've waited for you. When you went abroad for university, you said I should wait 4 years. I did. After you came back and worked for 2 years, I proposed marriage, but you refused. Now you want to go abroad again for further studies. After your studies, will you still follow some designer for a few more years?" He sneered and wrapped his arm around my waist. I said, "If you leave, we'll break up. There are plenty of women in this world." Indeed, there were many women. I had 7 older sisters and 1 younger brother. All 7 of my sisters looked very similar to me. And, of course, very similar to Lin Chuchu. Why should Lin Chuchu, who lived like a princess, get everything while my sisters and I, after finishing junior high school, had to drop out and work to earn money? Only to send it back home? If we didn't send the money, our parents would call us ungrateful. I was lost in my thoughts. Meanwhile, Lin Chuchu was already fuming on the other side, clinging to another man's arm. I obediently sat next to Fu Zhen, playing the role of a decoration. In the past 2 days, he had also hired an etiquette teacher to teach me proper manners. I understood the basics, but I still lacked confidence. The modeling teacher was also training me. I clenched my fists. This was my chance to transform from a country girl to a phoenix. Even if it meant getting hurt, I had to seize this opportunity. Soon, Fu Zhen went out to the balcony to smoke. The group of friends who had just spoken to him scrutinized me like I was merchandise. Then they ignored me and chatted among themselves. She seems to be a waitress Fu Zhen picked up at the hotel. She's so rustic. How long do you think Fu Zhen will play with her? Tisk, tisk, tisk. She looks a bit like Chuchu, but her aura is far from matching. I bet half a month. I bet 5 days. As they placed their bets, I became increasingly afraid. I feared losing this great opportunity. After returning home, I paid even more attention to the teacher's instructions. I learned posture, etiquette, and presence thoroughly. Moreover, I watched various fashion shows to learn the most confident and commanding auras. I also did various beauty treatments. and the most effective was going to a plastic surgery clinic for injections and taking medication. My skin became much whiter and more radiant. A week later, I could hardly recognize myself in the mirror. Just then, Fu Zhen came to see the results of my training. I looked at him shyly, and he was indeed very satisfied. He even took me out for dinner, during which he drank a lot. It was clear that he wasn't in a good mood. When I helped him back, he called me Choo Choo. I envied her deeply. The name Choo Choo sounded so beautiful. Unlike mine, which is Pandy. My whole life seemed to revolve around waiting for my brother to be born. It was never about me. I helped Fu Zhen bathe. He was drunk. I was afraid he would act like the protagonist in the novel I read, where the patron kept the stand-in for over 100 chapters before sleeping with her. I feared he would fire me soon. If I succeeded in climbing into his bed, he might keep me longer. Once I saved enough money, I could find my own way out. So, without hesitation, I climbed into his bathtub. He looked at me with blurred vision. Choo Choo. I kissed him. The workplace is like a battlefield. To sacrifice is to gain the greatest benefit. If anyone says I'm crazy, it's because they've never been poor. My sisters and I had to wait for our parents and brother to finish eating before we could eat the leftovers. The first time I ate an egg and drank milk was at school, where it was donated by kind-hearted people. That egg lasted only one day because the donors left after taking photos, and we didn't have any more. The first time I entered a building was at school. Before that, I didn't think 3,000 yuan a month was low. On the contrary, I was very grateful. Until I bought a phone and saw the world through it and heard my coworkers talk about various things, I realized the world was much bigger than I imagined. So I had to seize this opportunity with Fu Zhen. The internet has a lot of information. Besides novels, there are various videos. A quick search revealed many tips on how to please a boss or a man. When Fu Zhen woke up the next day, he was surprised and a bit regretful. I immediately seized the moment. I knew men liked this. In the end, Fu Zhen relented. Or rather, he indulged himself. He was generous, giving me a lot of money. I went shopping with his black card. He even gave me a house. This was my favorite part. At the value of that house, I would need to work 10 lifetimes to earn that much. He also gave me money. When I came to him, my bank account had only 432.8 yuan. Because my parents had forced me to send money home. I cried and argued, feeling exhausted, and finally compromised by sending 2,000 yuan back home. Now, my account had 1,432.8 yuan. After the initial joy, I was overwhelmed with fear. These good times were all his gifts. If he grew tired of me, I would fall back into obscurity. Moreover, I had no education or degree. How would I survive? After living like a princess, I didn't want to return to working in a factory or as a hotel server. After much contemplation, I decided to bring my sisters to the city. Family wealth should not benefit outsiders. We each have different personalities, and if I got fired, one of my 8 sisters would surely satisfy Fu Zhen. I acted immediately, fortunate that none of my sisters were married. Because we didn't marry, we were like laying hens, constantly earning wages for our family. I did the math. If all 8 of us worked in factories or as servers, we could earn 3,000 to 4,000 yuan a month. Most jobs provided room and board. Our parents required us to send at least 2,000 yuan home each month. For 8 people, that was 16,000 yuan a month, or 190,000 yuan a year. In our hometown in Ji province, surrounded by mountains, a family earning 16,000 yuan a month was a fortune. Over the years, my parents saved a lot of money. Previously, a neighbor wanted to arrange a marriage for my sister. My parents refused, saying she was too young. But I overheard them calculating. Marrying off a daughter would bring a dowry of 80,000 yuan at most. Usually, it was only 30,000 to 40,000 yuan. Taking my eldest sister as an example, she could earn 24,000 yuan a year for the family. In 2 to 3 years, she could earn back the dowry. As long as they didn't marry her off, she could continue earning for the family. I hated them for treating us like cash cows. But we had no choice. They would cry, act weak, and even kneel to manipulate us. When I was in school, my parents used me to pressure my sisters to send money, threatening to make me drop out if they didn't. I am no longer the puppet I once was. I have seen the world. After explaining the situation to my sisters, they immediately quit their jobs and came to the city. My life became busier. I attended classes during the day to improve my demeanor. If Fu Zhen needed me, I would accompany him. When I had free time, I would visit the house he gave me to check on my sisters. To save money, I sent my third and fifth sisters to a modeling class to learn modeling techniques. I sent my eldest and second sisters to an etiquette class to learn various manners. My fourth and sixth sisters went to dance classes to learn dancing. My seventh sister attended a cooking class to learn culinary skills. Their classes were in the morning. After class, they would return home and teach each other what they learned. I set a strict schedule and constantly reminded them to put aside their pride and self-respect. Our group chat was called Rise of the Strong Women. We also watched videos by a blogger named Wang Huiling and bought her book Grassroots Women. We not only repeated her video content, but also studied her book. Every day, we held an hour-long meeting to analyze our parents' behaviors and compare them to the content in the book, making our minds clearer. Once we all awakened intellectually, our motivation to learn became even stronger. They often watched videos of models practicing and searched for various videos to improve their image, demeanor, and culinary skills. Sometimes, at 1 or 2 a.m., I would see their practice results posted in the group chat. Later, we followed a blogger named Kaka, whose words became our motivational slogan, "Everything must serve me and empower me." My sisters and I, all bearing the character Dai in our names, were rapidly improving, and so was I. After a month of hard work, I successfully transformed from a country girl into a refined canary, deeply understanding my benefactor's preferences. I compiled these preferences into a handbook and made my sisters memorize them. I couldn't make a perfect appearance, but my sisters could. I lacked distinctive features and was just a decoration, though my efforts in bed had become quite refined. However, I couldn't attract someone like Fu Zhen, the prince of Beijing's social circle. I could already sense that he was growing tired of me. Before he lost interest, I quickly leveraged his influence to arrange for my third sister to work as a receptionist at his company. Of course, we forged her credentials to pass her off as an undergraduate from a regular university. One morning, he was already dressed and reading documents in the living room. On the floor were 2 luxurious suitcases. I cautiously sat beside him. Feeling dejected about being fired, my hands trembled slightly. Anyone who lost a 100,000 yuan a month job would look pale like me. But he had lost interest in me. He said, "This is your severance package. It contains 5 million yuan. I suddenly looked up. 5 million yuan. It was a staggering amount. Even if my sisters couldn't seduce him, this 6 million yuan would be enough for us to study or start a business and live a stable life. Tears streamed down my face. No one had ever been so kind to me. Only those who had been poor truly understood the meaning of this. "Do you want anything else?" he asked. I hesitated and said, "Boss, can I join your entertainment company? My dream is to be an actress." His entertainment company was very powerful, and he secretly controlled multiple entertainment companies. If he approved, I would definitely get roles. Now, besides running companies, the most profitable professions were celebrities and streamers. Fu Zhen was generous and had his secretary arrange it for me. Finally, he said, "If you need help in the future, you can call Secretary Zhao." I didn't have his contact information. His secretary usually contacted me. I quickly said, "Thank you, sir." He waved his hand. The driver helped me load my luggage into the car and drove me away. As he left, he gave me the car, saying it was a gift. Dazed, I went upstairs. The house he gave me was a duplex, with 2 floors and 6 rooms. I had a lot of savings and a car worth millions. I told my sisters about how lucrative this job was, and their eyes sparkled. After searching online for videos, connecting with various relationship bloggers, and reading psychological books, we crafted a persona for my third sister: bright, outgoing, confident, and poised. Fortunately, my third sister had a naturally outgoing personality. Coincidentally, one of the receptionist's duties was to operate the elevator for people entering the company from the lobby. Fu Zhen disliked the smell of the underground parking garage and usually took the exclusive elevator from the lobby. I discovered this detail when I accompanied him to the company once. So when my third sister opened the elevator door for Fu Zhen, she greeted him with a clear, pleasant voice. "Mr. Fu, please take your time and have a pleasant day." She practiced this line hundreds of times at home, even fine-tuning the angle of her smile, the admiration in her eyes, her confident and bright demeanor, her playful tone, and a touch of nervousness. This was very similar to how Lin Chuchu appeared at the banquet. Sure enough, Fu Zhen was captivated. He dazedly entered the elevator. My third sister flicked her ponytail and then chatted with the other receptionists. She obtained this opportunity by giving each of them a lipstick. Sure enough, that evening, my third sister received an invitation from Fujian. My third sister was indeed much more outgoing than me. I was like a rat in a gutter, understanding the ways of exploitation but powerless to resist, always harboring resentment. This was not a likable personality. But my third sister was an optimist. She was always cheerful. She became Fujian's new canary, and she did much better than me. Previously, when Fujian spoke to me, I had no idea what to say. But he had a lot to talk about with my third sister. He even took her horseback riding and skiing. Although my third sister had undergone brief training, she still didn't understand many things. But she was very open-minded. Even if she made a fool of herself, she wouldn't feel awkward like I did. She would pout, mock herself, stomp her feet, pretend to be angry, act spoiled, and look up at Fujian with admiration, saying how amazing he was. My third sister received more benefits: a villa, 300,000 yuan a month as pocket money, and an additional 3 million yuan. She always looked radiant. I was a bit worried about her and said, "Third sister, don't get too involved. These rich boys don't have real love." Third sister replied, "Of course not. I think this game is very fun and profitable." Like me, third sister received a large sum of money. We were afraid that our lack of knowledge would prevent us from managing such wealth, so we kept only 300,000 yuan for emergencies and deposited the rest in fixed-term accounts, which couldn't be withdrawn for 3 years. We used to live on less than 1,000 yuan a month, so this amount was now a windfall. When I was with Fujian, I used his black card to empty half a supermarket, buying various daily necessities in bulk. So, our living expenses were minimal. I also used his card to buy decent clothing and shoes for my sisters. Now, third sister was using his card too. It wasn't until I watched a Korean movie that I realized we were a bit like parasites. Third sister continued to work hard with Fujian. I joined a film crew. I got a small role as a maid. Seventh sister followed me, helping me with odd jobs and providing support. Seventh sister often read books in her free time. Like me, she loved reading. But our parents didn't want us to read much because they believed that the more we read, the less we would listen to them. So all 8 of us dropped out after junior high school to work. Now, seventh sister was voraciously reading and learning from online videos. I, on the other hand, was diligently studying acting. I discovered that I loved the spotlight and enjoyed wearing costumes to experience different lives. Moreover, I was lucky to catch the eye of a director. His surname was Du. Even luckier, he was gay and didn't require anything from me. Honestly, as long as it could give me a chance to rise, I wouldn't mind selling myself. To climb the ladder, I knew I had nothing but my young body to offer. I was willing to exchange it. I never wanted to return to those dirty, cramped, smelly, and garbage-filled environments. I read scripts every day, watched videos by experienced actors, and studied TV series and movies. I found that as long as I found a path and continuously learned and improved, I could sleep soundly. Because director Du liked me, I added him on WeChat. He was the first mentor I added. Fujian was also my mentor, but I didn't have his contact information. Third sister did. Since then, I've been working in Hengdian. My agent, Miss Lee, was a practical person. I guessed it was partly due to Fujian, as I had previously been with him, so his subordinates treated me kindly. Initially, Ms. Lee looked down on me. Although she arranged work for me, she considered me a gold digger and thus disrespected me. But later, my diligence and effort won her over. To perform well, I practiced until late at night, reduced my weight from 100 pounds to 90 pounds, and only drank water and ate vegetables and apples. No matter how small the role, I gave it my all. 2 months later, Ms. Lee encouraged me, saying I would definitely become famous. I was so excited that I cried in the bathroom. I would have my own life. Third sister was thriving with Fujian. Moreover, Fujian arranged for her to get a Beijing household registration, which was rare. Because seventh sister loved reading and learning, and I had adapted to the film set and met many crew members, she wasn't very useful to me here. Third sister approached Fujian and said she had a younger sister who wanted to study, asking him for help. This was no big deal for Fujian. Seventh sister was directly enrolled in a high school in Beijing to study first grade. After 3 months with Fujian, third sister was also dumped, but her treatment was much better than mine. Fujian not only gave her a 10 million yuan severance package, but also several sets of jewelry worth millions. Third sister, leveraging her position, arranged for sixth sister to work as a maid in Fujian's villa. Sixth sister was introverted, But unlike my introversion, Sixth Sister's was gentle. She was like a little rabbit, wanting to hide whenever she saw someone. This was Third Sister's idea. Since we both had served Fu Zhen, we understood him best. We had the authority to choose who would replace us. Among our sisters, after discussion, Third Sister decided, men crave novelty and excitement. I was a wild rose, like the sun, but since he's tired of me, he probably wants a change. Sixth Sister's gentle, rabbit-like personality is perfect. So, Sixth Sister, with our hopeful gazes, resolutely entered Fu Zhen's villa. The White Moonlight Stand-in handbook I initially edited, which was 8 pages long, had grown to 35 pages. It detailed Fu Zhen's various habits and our interactions with him, including intimate details, to ensure he would be satisfied with us as stand-ins. Especially after the updates and improvements. Sixth Sister had no ambition. After becoming a maid, she earned 20,000 yuan a month. She said she didn't want to be a stand-in anymore, and didn't want to sell herself because this job was good. She wanted to work for life, earning 240,000 yuan a year with room and board. But things didn't go as planned. After breaking up with Third Sister, Fu Zhen was single for a while, often dining and drinking with his friends. One day, he returned home and saw Sixth Sister walking the dog in his villa complex. Not only did Sixth Sister have a rabbit-like personality, but based on her description, I knew the scene. Her hair was loose because the dog ran too fast, and her black lustrous hair cascaded down. Her porcelain-white skin, previously a bit yellow and dark, with yellow teeth. But after our sisters went to a beauty salon for basic hydration and whitening treatments, combined with her pure deer-like eyes, made her look like a fairy running in the forest. Moreover, Sixth Sister looked a lot like Lin Chuchu. Fu Zhen was stunned. But Sixth Sister no longer wanted to be a stand-in, so she glanced at him and, like an ancient woman, shyly ran away. Later, Fu Zhen learned she was a maid in his villa, and transferred her to the main courtyard to serve. His servants were not allowed to linger in the main courtyard except for work, according to information from Third Sister. I didn't know this because the villa I lived in was not his primary residence. Sixth Sister also moved into the servants' quarters in the main courtyard. Previously, Third Sister was very proactive, but this time Sixth Sister was cautious and always avoided him. Like a little mouse. This further triggered Fu Zhen's cat-like nature. Sixth Sister honestly shared the details with us. This was part of our plan. By knowing every detail, we could mimic certain actions and words, creating a brief illusion for him and enhancing his emotional experience, making him reminisce about the past. Sixth Sister said that one day he called her to the study to bring tea. After she placed it, she immediately tried to leave. But he stopped her. "Stand still, Nian, are you afraid of me?" Sixth Sister's real name was Xu Nandi, but she told others her name was Xu Nian. Not everyone checked her ID. Sixth Sister stammered, "No, mister, nothing, I'll leave now." Then she ran away like a rabbit, because Sixth Sister genuinely avoided Fu Zhen. Unlike me and Third Sister, who were determined to stick close to him, her approach actually won his heart. He came home earlier and only wanted Sixth Sister to serve him. He even asked her to sit and eat with him. He liked seeing Sixth Sister's blushing face. He touched her hand and asked her to be with him. Sixth Sister's eyes were red, and she shook her head, saying no. Then she went to her small room. I couldn't say whether Sixth Sister was manipulative or not. But after Fu Zhen expressed his feelings, she said she wanted to quit. Quitting would happen the next day. That night, Sixth Sister took a cold bath and made herself sick. She still worked despite her high fever and collapsed in Fu Zhen's arms. After that, she was bedridden, and Fu Zhen took care of her, holding her while feeding her medicine and porridge. While feeding her, he climbed into Sixth Sister's bed. Moreover, to my and Third Sister's surprise, our previous strategy might have been wrong. Because although we were proactive in bed, Fu Zhen's nature was good, but it couldn't compare to Sixth Sister's innocent crying and pleading. Third Sister. After Third Sister left Fu Zhen, she also went to high school. Because Third Sister wasn't good at acting and hadn't decided on a career. She went to school to improve her education and broaden her horizons. Eldest Sister and Second Sister, besides learning various etiquette and modeling techniques, made clothes. They bought sewing machines and various fabrics, designing and making their own clothes. As children, we rarely wore new clothes. Our parents were busy with farm work and focused on our brother, neglecting our needs. Our clothes were made by Eldest Sister and Second Sister. They were very skilled. With a piece of fabric, a sewing machine, scissors and thread, They could create beautiful dresses like those sold in stores. I remember when I was a child, I saw a little girl in the neighborhood wearing a green dress, which looked very beautiful. I envied her so much. The little girl noticed my interest and offered to lend me the dress for a day if I gave her a rabbit I caught on the mountain. Rabbits were valuable. Even if I couldn't eat the meat, my parents and brother wouldn't finish the rabbit soup, so we could have some rice with the soup, which would be very delicious. But to wear the beautiful green dress, I gave her the rabbit. In the end, the little girl tricked me. She took the rabbit home and claimed she caught it. But she didn't lend me the dress. When I asked for it, she cried, and my mother slapped me, calling me a beggar for asking for things. Then she hit me with a bamboo stick, leaving red marks all over my body. The pain stayed with me for years, making my whole body tremble. I didn't eat dinner that night. I cried in my room. My sisters hugged me in the darkness, crying with me. Later, my sisters collected camphor leaves to sell and dug eels and loaches from the fields to sell, hiding the money. When I almost forgot about the green dress, they pulled me to a mountain hollow on our way home from school, forming a circle. Eldest sister rummaged through her old bag for a long time before pulling out wrinkled money. I still remember the amount, 71.8 yuan. The green dress cost 55 yuan. Eldest sister said, "Little sister, we have enough money to buy you a new dress." I cried. That day, instead of working on the farm, we went to the town's clothing store to buy the green dress. Because I had never had it, I always thought it was the most beautiful dress. But we didn't buy it. It was sold out. In the end, we bought a green floral fabric, and eldest sister borrowed a sewing machine from a classmate to make me a green dress. That year, I was in 1st grade. Eldest sister was in 7th grade. The other sisters were each a year older than me, and we were still in school. That day, we were all beaten because no one fed the pigs, cooked dinner, gathered firewood, or helped in the fields. But when I was beaten, I didn't cry. My heart was warm. Thinking about my childhood and looking at the pictures of the clothes eldest sister and second sister made, my eyes welled up. I searched for courses in fashion design. Then, we held a family meeting and decided to pursue fashion design for eldest sister and second sister. The usually mature and steady eldest sister and second sister jumped for joy. This was thanks to 6th sister finding a class for them. While following Fu Zhen, 6th sister, through her coquettish behavior, learned about a renowned fashion designer. The master had retired but wanted to cultivate new talent and opened a class, though it was difficult to get in. 6th sister said she had 2 friends who wanted to learn, and Fu Zhen immediately had his secretary arrange it. Eldest sister and second sister successfully joined the master's class. They were much happier. Previously, they always wanted to work outside, saying that sitting idle was not a solution and that they shouldn't keep spending our money. Now, they thought about how to draw better, see more works, and design clothes. The shows I guest starred in gradually aired. Ms. Lee secured 2 supporting roles for me, and I performed excellently. 4th sister loved dancing and was learning continuously. 5th sister had no particular interests but enjoyed watching live streams, so she often watched them at home. Of course, she didn't neglect her classes. 6th sister was still Fu Zhen's canary. She was learning increasingly peculiar things, because Fu Zhen liked to train her. She was also attending high school to prepare for college entrance exams. She said this would improve herself, not waste time, and keep Fu Zhen interested in her. I deeply admired her. I finally got a big opportunity. Director Du, who directed my first show, invited me to play the lead in his new drama. He greatly appreciated me and saw great potential in me. He said he saw a tenacious spirit in me that never gives up. He also said I had a special charm. His dramas were excellent. Though he faced criticism online, he had produced many hits. Even if not hits, his shows had good viewership. Regardless, I threw myself into the new project. It was an ancient romance drama where I played a maid who falls in love with a prince and eventually becomes empress. The plot had its ups and downs but ended happily. The story was cliché, but I found it very appealing. I filmed for 3 months, dreaming and memorizing lines even in my sleep. After filming, I returned to reality to check on my sisters. 3rd sister and 7th sister were studying hard. Eldest sister and second sister were diligently learning fashion design. Eldest sister even made me a lavish green dress. The dress was voluminous and elegant, with vivid green flowers embroidered on a white base. It was like wearing spring itself. The flowers were embroidered by second sister and eldest sister together. Second sister's embroidery was better. She was also learning Suzhou embroidery. Fourth sister became a dance teacher. She said she had gained experience and wanted to open dance, modeling, and etiquette classes. Fifth sister was doing live streaming, specifically food broadcasts. Fifth sister was the most successful among us. After enduring the initial cold period, she now had a loyal fan base, sometimes earning 6 figures a month. But she worked very hard. When I visited her, she was vomiting after finishing a broadcast, which broke my heart. The most exciting was sixth sister. She disappeared for a while. But before disappearing, she told us not to worry, because she was planning to run away. I immediately thought of the forced love scenes in the novels I read. I deeply realized the benefits of reading novels. Not only did I apply what I learned, but sixth sister did too. After being caught and brought back by Fu Zhen, she told us that he now treasured her like a precious gem, fearing she would run away. Third sister exclaimed, "What a brilliant move! It must have stimulated his adrenaline like crazy. Exciting, so exciting." Third sister and I were too conventional. Sixth sister knows how to play the game. So, sixth sister had been with Fu Zhen for 4 months, breaking another record. My first leading role in a drama was a huge success. That day, I was staying up late reading a novel about a dominant CEO pursuing his wife to the funeral parlor, trying to relieve my nervousness while waiting for news. Just as I was about to find a new novel, I received a call from director Du. In the call, he kept praising me, saying I performed exceptionally well, the data was impressive, and I had become a sensation. I hung up with heartfelt gratitude and burst into tears of joy. I was no longer the aimless girl I once was. Soon, I received an invitation to attend a gala. But there was a problem. The gala started at 7 p.m. that evening, and I had no formal gown. Moreover, it was my first time attending such an event. Time was tight, and many gowns were already borrowed. Miss Lee said, "This is my first public appearance, and I must stun everyone. Let me call the brand's director and borrow a gown." I silently took out the gown made by eldest sister and second sister. "Ms. Lee, do you think this will work?" Miss Lee's eyes widened in surprise. Because the materials eldest sister and second sister used were of high quality, and the design was very thoughtful. Ms. Lee exclaimed, "Who gave you this gown? Which brand is it?" I smiled and explained what eldest sister and second sister had done. Because my appearance was so successful, it was as if a flower fairy had brought spring to the earth. Miss Lee aggressively bought traffic and marketed my beauty. With the popularity of the hit drama, my Weibo followers soared to over 10 million. We held another family meeting. The decision was made for eldest sister and second sister to register a brand and start designing and making clothes while continuing their studies. For matters like registering a company, we hired a specialized firm to handle it. Eldest sister and second sister usually attended classes during the day and drew designs and sewed at night. Third sister and seventh sister also lived at home, quietly studying and preparing for the college entrance exams. Third sister and seventh sister spent a lot of money hiring students from Peking University for full subject tutoring. They wanted to skip grades to senior high school to start university sooner and join us in our endeavors. Seventh sister planned to study law, and third sister planned to study accounting. We were like dry land, absorbing every bit of moisture we could. My career was also rising steadily. I was still young. At 19, I was already famous. People described my career trajectory as smooth, calling me a prodigy with exceptional talent. Indeed, especially in crying scenes, I could grasp the emotions very accurately. Sometimes I found it strange why some actresses couldn't cry. Later I understood, because their lives were too smooth. There was nothing truly worth crying about. I was different. Every memory from my childhood to adulthood was filled with helplessness, bitterness, and hurted. Even though my sisters gave me warmth and love, they were also struggling. We could only embrace each other in the darkness, licking our wounds, unable to significantly change each other's lives. Such a dark life provided me with countless reasons to cry. So, I cherished every opportunity, even if it was a minor role. I wouldn't be blinded by the glittering lights. I knew I was just an empty shell. I also knew that poverty and hopelessness were the true colors of my life. If I didn't strive, I would fall back into obscurity. I became a relentless fighter. For a long time, I focused entirely on filming, not paying attention to external matters. I needed to maintain a pure state. Until, after finishing another drama, I learned that many things had happened. First, sixth sister called our parents and brother to come to Beijing. We had all changed our phone numbers and decided never to contact our family again. But sixth sister reached out to them. They were like leeches, clinging to us tightly. But third sister laughed and said, "Sixth sister still acts like a little rabbit, renting them a place and letting them bully her." Until the two old scoundrels, greedy and insatiable, moved into Fu Zhen's villa. Sixth sister calmly sipped her water and smiled. Third sister continued, "Then, when Fu Zhen came home and saw strangers in his house, looking smug and ready to sell their daughter. Fu Zhen was already annoyed seeing strangers, especially poor ones. But my parents, with a mix of boldness and cowardice, my mother said, 'You like my daughter? If you want her, give us 100, no, 5 million. Otherwise, forget about touching her.'" Sixth sister was wearing a sleeveless white puff dress, and her arms were covered with shocking marks. These were inflicted by my parents after they saw her, saying she had grown arrogant and climbed high, daring to block their calls. Fu Zhen looked at them and laughed. Sixth sister was crying nearby. In the end, his bodyguards took them away, and they disappeared from Beijing. They never even showed up in our hometown. It wasn't until later that we learned they had been sold to Myanmar. Fu Zhen replaced everything in his house that had been touched by them. Sixth sister was crying, but he didn't comfort her. Instead, he said disdainfully, "How could you let anyone in? Go clean yourself up." His nose was very sensitive. Sixth sister said, "I'm going to lose my job too." We nodded in agreement. Indeed, when a man finds your body repulsive, it means he doesn't love you and doesn't even want to see you. Third sister and seventh sister successfully skipped grades and entered their final year of high school. Eldest sister and second sister no longer needed to attend classes with the master but focused on designing. However, there was a problem. They had no factory, so the clothes they designed could only be made by themselves. We felt deeply helpless. We weren't unwilling to invest, but the risks associated with investment were significant for us, who knew nothing about business. Just as we were at a loss, eldest sister and second sister said they wanted to study abroad. We were all surprised. Naturally, we supported them. So, they started intensively learning languages and found agencies to send them abroad. Fortunately, after some effort, eldest sister and second sister drew many design sketches, compiled them into portfolios, and submitted them to the schools they wanted to attend. The schools quickly admitted them on an exception basis. They still made various evening gowns for me. Each time I appeared, my evening gown became the subject of speculation. It was too magnificent and beautiful, blending the beauty we aspired to in our childhood. Yes, the dresses we wanted as children were often incorporated into eldest sister and second sister's designs. Fourth sister, inspired by fifth sister, also started a blog. She posted videos of her dancing. Later, she realized the audience was limited, so she joined fifth sister in live streaming to sell goods. They imitated me, capitalizing on my popularity, and their viewership soared. One night, they live-streamed for 4 hours, chatting with the audience and selling goods, earning several million yuan. This was even more profitable than being Fu Zhen's mistress. If calculated hourly, it was more lucrative than my career as a celebrity. Fu Zhen's white moonlight returned to China. He was somewhat restless. Sixth sister quietly stayed out of his way. She thought, if I can last another day, I'll get another month's salary. However, despite being tired of sixth sister, Fu Zhen didn't break up with her. Instead, he paraded her around. When Lin Chuchu came to reconcile with Fu Zhen, he introduced sixth sister, saying he had a girlfriend. Only when Lin Chuchu stopped coming to see Fu Zhen did he let sixth sister go. Of course, sixth sister's severance package was astronomical. It included a villa, a luxury car, and a severance fee in the 8-digit range. On her last day, sixth sister asked Fu Zhen, "Can you take me to see the flower field one last time?" The flower field was something Fu Zhen had created to cheer up sixth sister. To win him back, sixth sister also created a rose garden for him. Of course, winning him back was a ruse. The real goal was to set a trap. Sixth sister drove out. She deliberately passed by the high school where seventh sister was studying. As she turned a corner, seventh sister was dramatically hit. She was holding papers that flew everywhere, her hair flying, and she fell to the ground, looking fragile. Fu Zhen frowned. He gestured for sixth sister to check. Previously, he had been resting with his eyes closed and didn't see the staged encounter seventh sister had prepared for him. Sixth sister said, "Go down, Zhen. Do this one last thing for me." Fu Zhen got out of the car, and a woman with lustrous black hair turned to look at him pitifully. I thought he would be amazed on the spot. because this scene was inspired by a classic Thai drama, and I had practiced it many times with Seventh Sister. But Fu Zhen only gave Seventh Sister 200,000 yuan, then pushed Sixth Sister out of the car and sped away. From then on, whether Seventh Sister tried to trap him or Fourth Sister spilled coffee on him while working as a waitress, nothing worked. Fourth Sister even ruined his custom-made clothes and was sued for 1 million yuan. We realized the market trends had changed. The previous hot topics had faded. The white moonlight stand-in activity had lost its appeal. We had to stop. A year later, Sixth Sister, Third Sister, and Seventh Sister all took the college entrance exam. Sixth Sister, having wasted a lot of time as a mistress and eager to help us, only got into a third-tier university. She chose accounting, like Third Sister. Third Sister and Seventh Sister only got into second-tier universities. Seventh Sister studied law. As soon as they entered university, they started helping Eldest Sister and Second Sister register a fashion company. Eldest Sister and Second Sister drew design sketches, and Sixth Sister, Third Sister, and Seventh Sister started learning how to make clothes according to the designs. They initially designed clothes for me to wear. This went on for 2 years. Eldest Sister and Second Sister returned from studying abroad. After nearly 3 years of learning, they had completely transformed, looking like daughters of wealthy families. Previously, we learned etiquette and modeling to appear confident. But I knew that was just a facade. Our inner selves were empty, lacking substance. Now, it was different. We had genuine confidence. Sixth Sister, Third Sister, and Seventh Sister graduated early. Others in college mostly played and studied, with playing taking up most of their time. But they knew they were different. The sooner they finished their studies, the sooner they could help us and start their own careers. So, they worked hard to earn credits and graduate early. Eldest Sister, Second Sister, Third Sister, Sixth Sister, and Seventh Sister rented a factory in a city near Beijing and opened a clothing factory. They hired workers. Eldest Sister and Second Sister drew design sketches. Third Sister and Sixth Sister managed the workers, and Seventh Sister handled contracts and interactions with various departments. Fourth Sister and Fifth Sister continued live streaming. Because they looked alike and resembled me, their live streams felt like watching a variety show, which the audience loved. Gradually, they learned to craft their own personas. The most popular persona was the strong, independent woman. They talked about the gender bias in their homes and, like Wang Huling and Q-Co, encouraged women to develop their own careers and break free from the constraints of their original families. While selling goods, they also shared inspirational stories, making the audience feel they were getting more than just entertainment. As for my relationship with them, no one thought we were biological sisters. They assumed they had gotten plastic surgery to look like me and were capitalizing on my fame. Fourth Sister and Fifth Sister's live streaming income was very high. My income was the highest, as I had become a top-tier actress. At an award ceremony, I met Fu Zhen. He looked at me calmly. He was already engaged. To a young lady from a prestigious family, a perfect match. The young lady bore no resemblance to his white moonlight. I didn't know if he remembered me. I was receiving an award, and he was a capital mogul in the audience. I felt grateful to him. Moreover, I was still under his company. So, I bowed and smiled at him. "Hello, boss." He nodded faintly and then looked away. But within seconds, a photo was taken claiming I was a mistress. Photos from the past were released, showing me and my sisters standing next to Fu Zhen. I didn't have any overly intimate actions with him. Sixth Sister had the most intimate photos. This was a massive scandal. Fortunately, Sixth Sister stepped forward. She said she was the one dating Fu Zhen. She also provided more evidence, such as photos and chat records, and said they had broken up and he had no fiancée at the time. Sixth Sister also became famous. Coincidentally, the products from the clothing factory were launched. She started talking about her romance with the wealthy mogul in her live streams while selling clothes. She not only capitalized on Fu Zhen's fame, but also mine. Sixth Sister also opened a high society training institute. She recruited girls who wanted to climb the social ladder, teaching them how to attract men. She even gave them strategies. The tuition was very expensive, over 1 million yuan. The graduates sometimes worked as my assistants, accompanying me to events. Sometimes they accompanied her to business negotiations. These were all opportunities, of course, at a very high price. Her classes were private. Later, some of her students became very successful, 2 marrying rich heirs and 3 marrying male celebrities. Some people recognized Sixth Sister as the mastermind behind these achievements and began calling her Sixth Sister. The clothing factory expanded by 50%. Otherwise, the production capacity couldn't meet the order volume. Meanwhile, eldest sister and second sister also became famous. I posted photos of the gowns they made for me over the years, tagging them as designers, which further increased their popularity. Eldest sister and second sister won international awards for their designs and became renowned designers. People lined up to have them design custom gowns. Fourth sister and fifth sister started a social media company, not only being influencers themselves, but also nurturing other influencers. Third sister, sixth sister, and seventh sister were not only influencers and live streamers, but also opened multiple factories. In this era dominated by traffic, we supported each other, leveraging each other's strengths. As long as one of us didn't fall, the rest wouldn't either. And I, once a newcomer with no foundation, had become a top star, with numerous opportunities and my sisters as my backing. Another high-end business gala was held. All of us sisters attended. Fujian was there too. He had been facing some difficulties recently. One of his executives had made inflammatory remarks online, challenging all the netizens earning 3,000 yuan a month. This led to a boycott of one of his listed companies, causing the stock to plummet. A relative of his, likely a family member, had been ousted from power. His fiancée had also distanced herself from him. Many of his companies were in real estate, and with falling housing prices, his losses were severe. Some of his companies were also under investigation for tax issues. Although it wouldn't bankrupt him, it would certainly cause significant damage. Rumors were that he was selling some department stores. He was talking to someone. His face showed no signs of being affected, until he saw us 8 sisters. He paused, then looked closely, realizing it was indeed us. Eldest sister elegantly approached him and said, "Mr. Fu, may I have a word with you?" He nodded. In a private room, he looked us over from head to toe, and after a while said, "So, you all know each other? From the same training class? Or did you all get plastic surgery together?" We silently showed him our IDs. All of them had the name Shu XD. He leaned back on the sofa, covering his eyes, muttering, no wonder I got tired of Choo-Choo's face." Sixth sister said elegantly, "Mr. Fu, we heard you're in trouble. Although it might seem presumptuous, we now have some influence. If you need anything, please let us know." I added, "Yes, Mr. Fu, without your recognition, I wouldn't be where I am today, so if you need anything, just say the word." After the initial shock, he regained his composure, adopting a negotiating stance, and began discussing cooperation with us. He didn't need much, considering we were still newcomers compared to the established elite, but we weren't, he was. He was just facing temporary setbacks. Once he recovered, he would remember us as people who repaid kindness, and our careers would become even smoother. But even if he fell, we would still help him. Because he was our benefactor, a great benefactor. We would continue to grow and prosper, as long as we strived, as long as we didn't give up, seizing every opportunity, climbing relentlessly. The little girl who couldn't get the green dress would eventually stand on the stage, shining brightly,